Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Jonny. I'm one of the coaches at Propanefitness. And in today's video, in today's training, I'm going to be talking about the idea of six figures in revenue, what that is, why we should care about it, and more importantly, what would have to happen if you were seeking to move into the online fitness world and generate that level of revenue. How would you actually go about doing that? And then also, how possible is that as an outcome? How realistic is it that you would ever build a business to that size? See from the glittery text, that's today's topic. Six figures. What is that? Just $100,000, pounds in turnover, okay, generated in one calendar year. Don't worry, I'm not going to be using this pen for very long. So the first thing to consider is why do we even care about that, right? Why is that used as this kind of barometer of success, or as this measure of anything really in the fitness industry? Okay, so there are some positives of it and there are some negatives of it. Now, I want to preface this, like what qualifies me to talk about this. Now, I'm not going to dazzle you with Stripe screenshots or testimonials or anything like that. If you're on this channel, if you're on this watching this video, probably either you're an existing follower of ours, you're on our email list or something like that, or you're following our YouTube channel, right? So you can see the business that we are part of, which is called Propanefitness.com. Or just called Propanefitness. And I run that with my business partner, Yusuf. We've been doing that for about a decade, as crazy as that sounds. A lot of people don't believe us, but you can actually scroll down this video, the video stream on YouTube, and see just how long we've been going for, right? And during that time, we have scaled the business past this level, okay? Initially, I thought it wasn't possible. When I was working in the finance industry as an accountant, I thought that 100,000 in revenue in this kind of context would never be possible. We've since managed it. I'm not saying there's anything magical about it, but it's used a lot in marketing messages. So if you're a personal trainer and you're thinking about moving online, you're probably spoken to a lot in ads and posts and emails and phone calls and all these sorts of things about this idea of generating six figures. Okay, so why is it that people care about that? And also, are there any positives to it, or is it actually worth even considering as a target? So the good things about it are when your gross annual revenue has hit that level, you kind of have some validation over your business, right? Now that sounds obvious, but a lot of people, when they're starting out, when they're running a startup in any industry, the doubts center around, does this have any longevity, this business? Am I going to be able to live off this? Am I going to be able to get enough customers? Am I going to be able to get enough money in through the business to generate a profit and make this worthwhile? Okay, so when you're hitting this level, you have some validation. Not to say that you don't have that at 92,000 pounds or dollars, all right? But I think it feels like, okay, I've kind of broken this threshold, this arbitrary line in the sand. It feels like I have some validation to what I'm doing. Okay, so you're also dealing with, obviously, you'll have to forgive my handwriting on this, some freedom, probably financially and in terms of your schedule. More than likely, by the time you get your business to this level, you have enough cash to probably stop doing what you were doing previously. You can probably live off the business at this point. Even once you take into account the costs that are associated with running a business in this way, chances are you're making enough after taxes and expenses to draw a reasonable income and live off the business full time. So you have freedom over that aspect as well. And probably as well, you have this, a customer base. I can't write like that, sorry. Customer and fan base that you've accumulated over time, depending on how you've done it, that will probably be interested in subsequent products that you buy. Okay, so if you have an email list, you have an audience, you have this kind of critical mass of people who are paying attention to you, probably when you release something new or when you launch a new program or product or ebook or download, more than likely, you have this sort of body of people who would at least pay attention to that, which again gives a lot more flexibility going forward. So you have some validation of your business, you have some freedom, both in terms of revenue, and you're probably doing it full time at this stage. And also, chances are there's enough money in the business to reinvest. Okay, so you can start to outsource. Separate line. You can start to outsource. You can start to reinvest. You can start to diversify. Okay. And what I mean by that is outsourcing. You can maybe have a virtual assistant take care of some of your admin. You can maybe bring in some coaches. Again, this is all of these things are made possible by the cash that you bring in. So if you're generating enough revenue, suddenly you have options, you have opportunities. Okay. You can start to outsource some of your business to other people. You can bring in other coaches. You can reinvest that cash into advertising, into better software, into paid tools, and make things run better. Or you can even diversify. Like one of the benefits of any digital business, anything that's selling information and coaching, is the gross margin is very, very high. In other words, the amount of profit that you retain in the business from just operating and delivering your service is very high, typically 60, 70, 80%, sometimes even higher than that, sometimes close to 100%. Okay, so you can then maybe invest that into property or into the stock market or into some other kind of interest-bearing vehicle that's going to allow you to diversify your income stream so you aren't just reliant on online coaching on this business. What you're able to do, one of the key benefits in my opinion, what you're able to do is build a business that's very cash heavy. So in other words, you're generating a lot of cash flow, you're generating a lot of profit, usually quite early on in your business. Okay, so I'm not saying that this is something that is achievable for anybody, but this level of revenue with the right approach could probably be reached within a few years of consistency and hitting your targets and having the right mental approach to it. So if you compare the profit that you were to be able to build it, generating a business like this to a typical offline business that's selling inventory or producing something in a factory and shipping it globally, you probably are going to achieve a total amount of profit in terms of the cash generated, the numerical figure generated, faster because your profit margins are larger. And so that means you can then benefit from that quicker. Right? So if you generate that cash in your business really quickly, you can then reinvest it and generate further income streams, etc. All right. So that's kind of why people care about it. Like people may not be aware of that, but obviously if you're someone who is trying to sell someone the dream of being a business coach, saying something like 6 figures or 7 figures, as now is put around a lot, is appealing. Right? It's better than saying, oh, this is really difficult and there's a massive struggle and you probably won't make much money. But there are some bad things associated with getting your business to this point. Okay, so depending on where you are, if you're in the UK, you have to deal with the VAT threshold at this point. So 85,000 at the time you're recording this video. As soon as your revenue creeps over that in a 12-month period, you would have to register for VAT, which means that depending on the scheme that you're on, and this is very broad and it depends on the industry, and this isn't guidance or advice or anything like that, is let's say 10 to 20% to keep things simple. So either at that stage, you have to then up your prices to accommodate for that loss of revenue, or you just take it on the chin and accept that for every sale I make, 10 to 20% of it goes to the government. Okay. Now, different laws in different countries, this may or may not apply to you, but as soon as you build your business past that point, some people even argue that you're better off staying under that level for that reason. Okay. So that's one of the problems. The other one is the old adage of, the old adage that applies to lots of areas of life. More money, more problems, right? You've probably heard that before. So in other words, like as you generate more revenue, as you have more customers, as you're dealing with more things, you'll get more emails, more support tickets, more questions, more sporadic issues you have to solve, more fires you have to fight. The volume of everything increases and scales up. Okay, so with your revenue comes the things that are associated with that. It comes more customers, more responsibility, more things you have to think about, and usually more costs, more ad spend, more complexity to the business as you try to grow it. All right. So those are really the only, I'd say more money, more problems. Like the complexity of it is really the problem. And obviously there's also this thing of, does that actually make you happier? Right. I think a lot of people blindly chase revenue targets without ever really thinking at a certain point, if I just continually grow my business, I will have less time for the rest of my life. Right. I will have less time to go traveling. I will have less time to train. I will have less time to spend with my family because more customers, more revenue, more numbers, a larger business requires more of you. All right. So that's the other downside of it is that, if your business is generating £70,000 a year, but you have this desire to become a 6-figure fit pro because that's something that you feel like you should be doing, it may actually reduce the quality of your life. So that's the other consideration. All right. So now we know what it is, why we might care about it, why it's often thrown around as a target. I'm going to cover, is it actually possible, right? If you are someone who is maybe operating offline at the moment, you're thinking about moving into online, and you've heard this sort of stuff thrown around before, you maybe aren't even familiar with how you might even go about doing that. So typically speaking, okay, there are two methods that are sort of thrown around as how you might go about doing this. And the first one is what most coaches teach, or a very common one at the moment, which is high ticket. Okay. Now, high ticket, for the sake of this conversation, let's just say it's anything that's over £1,000 for one transaction. All right. So the reason why coaches talk about this is because suddenly everything seems so simple and easy and very appealing. Okay. So if we are selling something that is £1,000, that means I need kind of 8 sales or 8 customers, and largely speaking, a month, that is, per month. Largely speaking, I've hit my £100,000 a year. And that's because, just for context, if we're doing, get the right pen. If we're doing £100,000 a year, and I'm just going to stick with sterling for now on, just so I don't have to keep translating things in currencies. Okay, if we're doing £100,000 a year, that's £8,333 and 33,333 pence a month, right? So we need to be generating that revenue every single month for 12 months to be able to say, I've hit my 12-month target of £100,000. So one way we can do that is with high ticket. We can sell something, we'll try and sell something that is £1,000 for a 12-week program or an 8-week program. You've probably heard this sort of thing before. And the simple thing is, right, well, in that instance, I need 8 customers, and then roughly speaking, then I've hit my target, right? So yes, you could try and go down that route. But if we look at the reality of that, what would that actually involve on kind of a weekly and a daily basis? Well, it's 2 things. One, you're probably going to be looking at, and this is all, averages. I'm not saying that this will definitely be you. You may do better, you may do worse. But probably we're looking at around around 40 calls. Okay. You're probably going to have to speak to people on the phone to sell a package of that price. And you're probably looking at 40 calls to get, the sales that you need. So that's 40 calls every month. All right. And usually the problem with this is, obviously as a business, the challenge is you have to make that revenue every month, right? You can't just have one great month and then make nothing. I think probably something that's slightly missed or not necessarily communicated very effectively in the online coaching world, the business coaching world, is anybody can have a month where they generate £10,000. But if they generate 0 for the next 2 months, that's not a £10,000 a month business, which is often how it's framed, right? So if we have a busy month where we put out an offer and we offer a free coaching call and we convert a percentage of those people into an offer that's £1,000, sure, that might be a great month for 1 month, but those customers aren't paying us in month 2, they aren't paying us in month 3. So there's no recurring aspect, and we typically don't see a recurring aspect of online fitness coaching when it's done in that way. Okay, we typically see it done as a single sale, and then at the end of 8 weeks, you have to try and sell your clients again. So you might think, well, what's the problem with that? Right? I can just wait till someone's done an 8-week program and then try and resell them the coaching again. But probably usually that initial transaction, try and get someone to buy something that's £1,000 for a fitness program, is done from a place of pain, usually, right? There's usually health consequences with it. Like, I'm desperate to solve this fitness program problem that I'm having, and I want to pay £1,000 for a fitness coach on the internet to solve it. I'm probably not doing that purely rationally, right? I'm probably doing that. It's quite an emotional decision. It's maybe a bit of an impulse buy. I maybe feel a little bit bad about it after I've bought it, right? So to try and get me to do the same thing again in 8 weeks' time, it's going to be very difficult. All right. So we typically don't see a recurring aspect. And the problem with all of this is every call usually has a CPA associated with it, or a cost per acquisition. Unless you're some kind of, internet whiz and you've got this huge following, right? And you can just constantly get followers from your organic audience, which is not most people. You'll have to have some kind of funnel that is driving people to book a call with you that you then try and convert. And every one of those calls is going to cost you a bit of money in advertising to get those people to book in the first place. All right. So we actually reduce the amount of money we generate for every sale. Okay. So in month 1, we have to do 40 calls to make 8 sales that are £1,000 each to hit our 8,000. But we've probably had to spend at least a couple of £100 for every one of those calls. Right. And you can start to do the numbers and think, well, actually, from that 6-figure revenue, I actually start to keep less and less of that running my business in this way. All right. And then every one of these 8 people that's coming on every month, because they're spending £1,000 with you, they're going to expect quite a bit from the service. They're going to be expecting quite a bit of your time. All right. So we typically don't see a recurring aspect. And the problem with all of this is every call usually has a CPA associated with it, or a cost per acquisition. Unless you're some kind of, internet whiz and you've got this huge following, right? And you can just constantly get followers from your organic audience, which is not most people. You'll have to have some kind of funnel that is driving people to book a call with you that you then try and convert. And every one of those calls is going to cost you a bit of money in advertising to get those people to book in the first place. All right. So All right. So that's one way of doing it. And the alternative way, which is what we suggest, is selling. There's not really a band for it, but it's probably moderate ticket. Okay. Or in other words, the person doesn't have to go and like check with their partner or move their money around, or it's not a huge financial decision for them, but it feels like a bit of a no-brainer, and it's probably going to be worth taking a chance on it. Right. So for us, that's usually between 147 and 297 for an initial program that someone buys. That is between 6 and 12 weeks long. And then after that, they become a recurring customer at around 80 to 250 per month. All right. Now I realize there's loads of numbers just being thrown at you, but here's the thing, right? Let me just get rid of this. That's the next thing we're coming on to. Here's the thing. If I have a system whereby I'm getting people coming into my world, all right, so I'm getting customers coming in, I'm getting them buying this initial thing, and then a percentage of them are staying with me, it means that what I need to get to is a point where I have enough clients, right? So if we take a £150 average, I need 55 of those people to be able to hit my 6-figure target. All right. So I need to get 55 people in my business. And once I've got those 55, yes, some may leave, some may refer people and things like that. But generally speaking, I don't need to worry about getting more next month to hit that target, right? Unlike the high ticket model. So we're still charging a reasonable price, right? £150 a month is not cheap necessarily, but it allows us to have some predictability in the business. It allows us to be able to run things in a way that every month I know how many people I have in my business at the time. And I have some predictability. But here's what I think is really missed in the business coaching world. And when you start to look into the kind of the nuance and details of this, you realize why the high ticket model is so tricky to make work, right? If you take the average person, average customer that you sell to here, okay, the lifetime value that they might spend with you, if they just work with you in that one time, is £1,000. All right. Unless you're able to resell them, which in most cases, people are not able to do that. All right, because someone's parted with this huge sum of money and probably doesn't feel like it was an absolute bargain. Okay. Compare that, however, to our 55 clients who are paying £150 a month, which usually is less than one personal training session a week. So they probably feel like there's this getting this huge value, right? Our systems, the way we coach them, then allow us to retain that person and work with them for, in some cases, years. Right. And actually, we have people in our business who are paying just £150 a month, right, who have a lifetime value with us of £5,000 or more. All right. Lifetime value is over 5,000. So we're actually beating someone who's charging more on day one because we know our numbers. We don't have to have the high pressure sales call. We don't have to do calls every single month. All we have to do is reach our client numbers and then focus on being a good coach. Right. So much simpler. So much simpler. So when it comes to making this work, we have two numbers, right, that we need to pay attention to. One of them is churn, and the other one is conversion. Churn just means for every month that goes by, probably someone's going to leave. Okay, we might have 55 clients this month, but one may leave. We have 54, 53, 52, etc. Now, it averages out. Sometimes it's loads of people leave for whatever reason. Sometimes loads of people join us for whatever reason. But generally speaking, on average, we see about a 5% churn, which if you take that 55 clients that we had at the beginning, that means roughly one person leaves per month. Okay. So if I'm facing one person leaving every month, I need to be getting at least one person every month from my marketing. Now, hopefully once you've got to the point where you're getting leads in and you have a business that's allowed you to get to 55 clients, probably the thought of getting one more client is no big deal, right? So we then start to look at conversion. And really what we work with people inside of our Propan Business program is getting this stuff up and running. Okay, so we do two things. We teach them to build a group-based coaching business that allows them to manage 55 clients pretty effortlessly, without too much time, without a one-to-one relationship, messaging over WhatsApp, designing programs from scratch every time. Okay, then we look to get a conversion machine in place so that for every 100 leads that come in, you're getting 3 to 5 customers from that. Okay, so we look for a 3 to 5% conversion for the systems that we have that are running our business in that way. All right. So with this in mind, then once we've built this, and we use a 14-day challenge to do this. It's a bit beyond the scope of this video to go into exactly how that works, but here's how things run from zero. Okay, so I'm going to imagine that you're at day one here. You have no clients. And the challenge is, right, well, I'd like to build a 6-figure business. What do I do? All right. Hopefully you've kind of weighed up the pros and cons and you're thinking, right, I'm at very least, I'm going to get this to the point where I'm kind of matching my offline income. That's a target that we set for a lot of people. So we have 0 clients. Okay. So step one is before I do anything, right? Before I have a website, before I get a logo, before I fiddle on with any of the details, I'm going to build my 14-day challenge that is designed hopefully that's obvious what that is. It's a target, right? That's exactly targeted at my customer, at the person I'm trying to reach. So I'm trying to solve that problem. I'm trying to present me as the expert. I'm trying to do all of the stuff that people don't have kind of pre-installed in their head when they suddenly come across you on the internet. Okay. If you're a PT in a gym, you are naturally positioned as the expert. If I'm in a gym and I'm paying a gym membership and I want help, I'm going to come to you. Versus if I'm just an online coach, right, and you see my ad on a Facebook newsfeed, you don't initially think that. You probably initially think, who's this weirdo? Why is he targeting me? Get this person off my Facebook, right? So we need to overcome all those things. And we do that in 14 days in a very specific, very targeted way. A system that we tested like probably thousands of times at this point, to be honest. But anyway, the goal of this is we build it. That's the first thing we do with a brand new client who comes inside of Propane Business. And we're putting our best foot forward. We're saying, okay, I think when I model Jonny and Yusuf's systems that they've tested in Propanefitness, I think I'm going to get this challenge to work in this way and convert it 3 to 5%. Okay, then we promote it for free using what we call our market pressure method. And I'm sorry, but you can't have that for free, okay? You'll have to come into Propane Business if you want to learn the details of how to do this. But we promote it for free. We don't use ads or anything. We haven't built a website. We haven't got any complicated software. The goal is we want at least 20 people in this, okay? We want at least 20 people to register because we want a 5% conversion here, right? 5% of 20 is one person. If I'm getting 18 or 15 people, my challenge has to convert better than the target for it to work at all. So most people get, let's say 50 to 60 people. We'll call it 100 just to keep things really basic. Okay, so I get 100 people go through my challenge. And at the end of it, let's say I get 4 clients at £150. Again, I'm just keeping the numbers super simple here. All right. So I've not spent a penny on anything at this point. And also more than likely, because we do something called a beta launch the first time we do it, you also haven't built much of your program. Okay. We're always managing 2 things: the risk that you spend a lot of time on something that doesn't work, and the risk that you spend a lot of money on something before it works. We're always managing those 2 things. All right. So we have 4 people buy something for £150. So we have made from nothing £600 in launch 1. But more importantly, we have confirmed that we have a process that converts at 3 to 5%. Okay. If you have that, if you get to that point, you are ahead of 99% of the fitness industry who are trying to get clients by posting Instagram stories and just shooting from the hip with their marketing online. All right. So then what I might do is I might take that £600, again, just for sake of argument, and I might reinvest it into advertising. So I know I have a system that converts, and I know that I just need more people to come through it. Probably just promoting it for free on my social media is going to be a waste of time long term. So instead, I'm going to go and pay, roughly speaking, an average of around £3 a lead on social media. Okay. And therefore, I'm going to get 200 people go through it. And it might convert better, it might convert worse, but let's assume for now it's the same. Okay. So I get 8 people, again at £150. I have made, from my second launch, £1,200. Okay, I've spent 600, made 1,200. Not bad, right? Not bad. So you can see how this starts to snowball up, right? When you look at it this way, you have to also remember that these 4 people, they're going through their first 6 to 12 weeks with me, but then they become, let's say, £100 a month, okay, or £150 a month. These 8 people are also going to become £150 a month. All right, they're going to start to build up and get rebuild. So while I'm making a profit here, spent 600 and made 1200, I also have all this potential in the back end of my business to make even more money when these people become recurring customers. So ultimately, to hit 55 clients, I need 1,375 leads, right? Now, if you don't have a way of doing that, if you don't have a way of getting 1,375 leads, you're never going to get 55 clients. And the easiest way to do this is to use advertising effectively, is to be in a position where you can go out and just pay £3 a lead. Most people can't do that because they don't have something that they know is going to bring the money back in again. So we test this system for free using free marketing. We make the most of your existing audiences, or we run a few tests to get the initial round of people through the door. Okay. We prove everything to ourselves. So it's like, okay, look, I launched this and I made some money from day one without paying for anything. So I know this works. I've got customers, my business is running up and running, it's going, and I haven't wasted any time. I've only worked on the absolutely critically important things. I'm then going to reinvest that money. So you haven't spent a penny. You haven't spent your savings. You haven't had to go out and get a bank loan or anything like that. Okay. You reinvest that money into growing things up. And over time, this snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. But you have such confidence doing this because you know that the system works, because you know you've tested it yourself. You saw leads go through and customers come out the other side of it. All right. I'm not saying this is easy. I'm not saying that you can just magically make this work with no effort. It's pretty complicated to get the right message and make this work properly, do it properly. But it is very simple, way simpler probably than the other ways you've been taught about this stuff. So that's kind of the maths of what has to happen, right? And really, aside from obviously you need 375 leads. Okay, you also need a client acquisition process, which is the 14-day challenge, okay, or equivalent. Okay, and you need probably group-based coaching program. Okay, ideally you want to be managing each of these people, or you want to be able to manage 55 clients in a few hours a week at most. All right, and there are systems that we use that allow us to do that, that basically allow us to run things using what we call a flywheel. Well, you probably heard that phrase before. A lot of coaches talk about this, but in other words, a client comes in, so someone buys, okay, they join our program, they go through the program, they ask a question, we answer the question, and then that feeds back into the program that then benefits everybody who subsequently joins. Okay, so every hour of work I put in to coaching someone is benefiting all 55 people. Every program I make is benefiting everyone who subsequently comes into the program. Every resource I make, every download I make, every PDF I make, every bit of coaching, every second of coaching that I do is benefiting people over and over again. So I'm building this asset in my business that's growing and growing and getting better, rather than spending all evening and all Saturday morning replying to WhatsApps like, Jonny, is red wine all right? Or do I have to have white wine? Can I have 2 bits of bacon with breakfast, or is just one allowed? All that sort of stuff, right? Your program should be doing the heavy lifting for you. The system should be doing the heavy lifting for you. You should never be doing the same thing again. And that allows you to go from 55 to 100 clients without this stress of like, oh God, well, this is going to absolutely ruin me time-wise. All right, so that's the maths of what happens. That's the numbers of what has to happen. But how likely is it? Or is it possible, I should say, for you to do it, right? What would actually have to happen? What are the chances of, if you're starting this today, you're going to get that stuff right? Okay, well, first stuff is, if you're just doing shoot from the hip marketing, and by that I mean you're just doing a daily Instagram live because you've been told to, you have a nice app because you think it's important, you built a website because you think you need one, but you cannot tell me this many leads equals a customer at this price who stays for this long. If you don't know those numbers, you haven't got a chance. All right. You need to be able to get leads in, close leads, and serve the leads. That's it. Okay. Deliver coaching to customers and then bring new people into your world all the time. Because people leave, as I mentioned, we have a churn rate. Any business does. And after a while, 55 clients becomes 0. So if you're not bringing in enough people, eventually the whole thing will fail. All right. So if you're just shooting from the hip and hoping things work, you'll never reach these levels. Okay. You just witnessed the level of precision that we use to get this stuff to work with our clients. If you don't have that, you'll be beaten by people who do. Equally, if you can't measure what you're doing, measure and something called attribution, then the risk is you just waste all of your time. So in other words, you may think that spending an hour on Canva, making an infographic to upload the infographic to Instagram that gets 20 likes brings you in a client. You may decide that that's how it works. Okay. But if you don't know that for sure, the risk is you spend all of your weeks and all of your time doing something that doesn't actually move the needle in your business at all. Okay. I can track everything that we do in Propanefitness down to opt-ins and sales, even things like this video, right? Even things like podcasts that we do. We have ways of tracking the performance of them. So I know that I'm not wasting my time when I put out bits of content or when I do other things for free. We have our core advertising function that's bringing leads in, and then we do strategic bits of free content and free stuff to support that. But all of it is being measured and tracked so that we know it's working. All right. Third thing, consistency. All right. So probably, well, actually, yeah, consistency and effort, I'm going to say. So the easiest way to fail, the way to guarantee that it will not work, is to be inconsistent or just not work at all, right? You may have the best strategy in the world, but if you only do it for a week, it probably won't work. You may have the best coach in the world, but if you don't listen to them and you don't do the work, you'll also definitely not get results. The second easiest way to fail is to work really hard and put loads of time in and be really consistent with the wrong stuff, right? I see people who do Instagram lives every day, who send emails that are a bit vague and watery every day, who do these that are very, very consistent with things, but they just can't attribute it to anything, okay? So the first thing is whatever you pick, you have to be consistent with it. You have to accept that probably you're in this for the long haul. If you want this to be a business that's going to build to the level where it's generating £100,000 a year with a very high profit margin, that's worth putting in a bit of time, right? To say, oh, I didn't reach 6 figures in 6 weeks, therefore I'm giving up, is when you really think about madness, right? It's going to take time. It makes sense that it will. It makes sense that it's not exactly as simple as, launching a website and hoping it works. There's probably some more complexity to it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth bothering with, okay? Because everybody would have tried it. Everybody would have succeeded. There'd be no way of entering the market at this point. Most people fail because they are being consistent with the wrong things, or they are not consistent enough with the right things. All right, so you have to be consistent and put the effort in. And then the fourth thing is most people treat it like a hobby, okay? In a world full of people who are playing around with this stuff, if you treat it seriously, treat it like a real business, get help, follow the advice and practices that have been shown to work, you have a pretty good chance of succeeding, frankly. And everything that I've shared with you in this video is really what I would suggest you start applying your attention to if you want to take this stuff seriously. All right, guys, hopefully you feel a bit clearer on what would have to happen for your business online in the fitness industry to reach 6 figures. And that's the system that we use. If you would like some more formal help with this stuff, if you want to see how our business model actually works, and a bit more detail on everything I've just explained below, there's a link below this video where you can grab basically the Propanefitness case study, right? In other words, I'm going to walk you through our business model, our sales funnel, our coaching systems, and the 7 key systems we use to make things work. And you can grab that completely for free. And if you would like to perhaps work with us, there's an opportunity once you're on our email list to book in a short application call with us to see if and how we can help you. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comments. I'll speak to you soon.